Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kahloot podcast. We sit down for an in-depth conversation that navigate through the trials and tribulations of life's most challenging moments. Our podcast is a tapestry of human resilience, a place where laughter and stories light up even the darkest of times. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest. This man has been holding on to a recipe that we've been trying to get, and we want to understand it. And finally, we got him here live. Abu Maryam, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Ahlan, welcome. Abu Maryam, tell us about this Knafeh journey that you've been on all your life. It sounds like you have gone through trials and tribulations, learning how to master the art of making this dessert called Kunafeh. Can you tell our viewers, what is a Kunafeh? How did you stumble upon it, and how do you make it, man? We want to hear the secret recipe, so give it to us straight.
All right. Well, trials and tribulations يعني زدناها شوي هيك يعني.
Was it that easy? So no trials? You never messed up? You never burnt one? I mean, come on, man.
Bruh. Well, I'll tell you, the recipe that I have right now that I use, yeah, dude, it's going back many different recipes. You just look online, you get different recipes from your friends, family, tried a bunch of different things. This one, I guess it just works for my palate the way I like Knafeh, right?
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sure, if anybody hears this or sees the recipe, they're like, yeah, this is trash. This isn't a Knafeh.
No.
And I'm gonna be real, because the Knafeh
recipe.
La. Knafeh, there's like authentic Knafeh has to be made a certain way, and the way I make it is not the authentic way, right? But for me personally, I prefer na'ma over khishna, and I don't like my Knafeh to be soggy, with just a bunch of qatr.
So na'ma is a soft dough. Khishna is the rough dough, right?
A little bit more coarse, yeah.
Coarse dough. Okay. And you said soggy. Soggy as in like drenched in the syrup water, or?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. So what is a Knafeh? I mean, for our viewers that have no idea what the hell we're talking about, what is Chenafeh? Kenafeh? Knafeh?
Well, yeah, where I come from, it's called Chenafeh.
Chenafeh?
That's
with a CH?
Chenafeh.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Chenafeh. Okay. Interesting. All right.
Yeah, that's another controversial topic right there, how it's pronounced. But
okay, interesting.
All
right.
Those sound effects.
Controversial Knafeh, folks. Don't even tell me it's called Chenafeh. All right, because we don't like that from our parts of town. All right, so your Chenafeh is so you're gonna get some hate. You're gonna get some hate mail from how you make it, but. I mean, why make it? Why deviate from the old school traditional recipe? Is it easier the way you make it?
Yeah, it's basically what you have available, right? Like you can try. Like I've seen, for example, Chicago a couple of years ago. I went out there to a wedding, and mashallah, they had these in their garages. They have all the equipment to make authentic Knafeh. It's a burner, basically, like these large pans. And it's the bomb. It's really good. The problem is that, when you're making it for a household, man, is like to invest hundreds of dollars in equipment just to, bust it out every, once, twice a year. I just didn't think it was
authentic way.
Right.
So you need equipment, a special way to make it the traditional authentic way.
Yeah, it's kind of like utilizing what you have available at home, which most kitchens will have, like a regular pan. Something that's oven safe, aluminum pan, for example. Traditionally, it's preferred to use NHAS, which is copper, but that's hard to find.
Why copper? Is it how the heat is being dispersed?
The heat, it just does better, I think, with heat.
Interesting.
Now?
I would have never thought that, using a copper pan, because of the heat distribution is different from a steel pan or stainless steel or I cast iron pan. So that's first I've heard that. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, I can, honestly, going back to at least 15, 20 plus years, just trying different recipes. I've had some weird ones, like, you know, people will tell you, hey, yeah, put an egg with the cheese, or, you know, a raw egg, mix it with it, or
So
sprinkle
what
it
are the
with
ingredients, the
sugar.
basic ingredients of Chenafeh?
Honestly, I think for me, the simpler it is, the better it is, right? And yeah, and it basically comes down to the phyllo dough, the cheese, and then the syrup,
Three
and butter,
ingredients, four
and
ingredients:
butter. Yeah, yeah,
butter, syrup, cheese, and the dough that you use on top or
yeah,
underneath the cheese, however your process is. So four ingredients,
yeah,
folks: butter, phyllo dough, cheese, and the syrup that you drench the dessert in once it's done. Now, tell us about this cheese. Is it mozzarella? Is it ricotta? Is it blue cheese? What kind of cheese is it? A special
yeah.
cheese?
So I experimented with many different cheeses. I've tried a mixture of ricotta with mozzarella. Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna just باختصار يعني the best cheese for Knafeh is a Hakkawi cheese. You're gonna find it in every Middle Eastern grocery store.
So it's a brand.
It's not necessarily a brand. No, it's just the name of the cheese is called Hakkawi cheese. I
Okay.
think I'm not sure if what its origins are or why it's named Hakkawi cheese, but it's basically the cheese that's used. It's a sweet cheese that's used for pretty much every Middle Eastern or most of the Middle Eastern sweets.
Okay.
And it's going to be the best. Some people they'll add mozzarella to it, and to give it that you know, when you pull out a slice, that stretch.
Bruh.
Yeah, yeah,
Mozzarella
exactly.
cheese? Like what?
Mozzarella. If that's what you're looking for, you want to add mozzarella to it.
What in the world? Is
But I
it?
don't think it adds in flavor. It really doesn't. In my opinion, it doesn't add in flavor. It's
Yeah.
just
So
really gonna
it's a texture thing. Okay. So you're adding.
exactly.
So is this Akawi cheese? Is this a sweet cheese, a salty cheese? Is it a sour
No, you
cheese?
never want to do salty. You want to do sweet cheese,
Okay.
if available. And there are other, you know, there's a ton of different sweet cheeses you can use. But for me, it's just what's readily available for me, and it's what works best. And I'm sure most cities will have a, you know, Middle Eastern store that will carry it. And I don't know about the brands, but as long as it's Akawi cheese,
Akawi sweet cheese. All right. So that is the one of the main ingredients. Now, does it come pre-sliced and then you just slice it? Like, walk us through it.
no, usually it's a block, and I don't know like the exact weight of it of how much I use. I have a particular pan that I use. I know, for example, I use two blocks of the cheese. I know how much butter to use for that pan. So it's the phyllo dough, the cheese, butter is really one of the most important things. You can
So
also
ingredients matter. It sounds like. So are you getting Akawi
yes.
cheese? Are you getting a special kind of butter?
So butter is also another thing that it depends on how you like your knafa, right? Like I there's certain knafas that you can have in the Middle East and even here that for me that are just من ناحية, the taste of it, there's a gaminess to it that is just I don't know, I'm just not a fan of, right? So like the other night we had a dinner at my brother's place. To me, the smell of the knafa had a little bit gaminess to it, and I tried a new butter that I haven't tried before,
A gaminess.
which
So a
is a good
gaminess
quality
from
butter.
the butter. Is it like a ghee? Because
I think it's from the butter.
I know ghee has a gamey taste to it. Is it
Yes,
a, okay?
yes, exactly.
Interesting.
So you know, Knafa typically will have that, right? Because if in the blad back overseas, it's used. I believe they use Semna Arabiya, and you're gonna have that flavor to it. I'm just not a big fan of that, and that's why like this recipe that I use is just more like I mentioned in the beginning. It's more to my palate and how I like it. It's just you know, I prefer a what is that? Land O'Lakes unsalted butter. You know,
Land O'Lakes unsalted butter. Okay. I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a specific brand, and Land
That's a
O'Lakes is a good
specific
brand.
one. Yeah. It is, and it
Shout out
doesn't
to Land.
have to be that one.
Shout out to Lando
So
Lakes, unpaid
they,
sponsor.
they
Unpaid sponsor.
are they paying us, bro?
They're
Are they
not. That's
paying
why
us?
I said they're unpaid. But hey, man, if Lando Lakes is listening, we love your butter. If you're in the grocery store, stop by and get you
Uh,
some Lando Lakes unsalted butter. It'll
well, if
really
they're paying us, if
solve.
they're not, we're using kahloot butter, bro.
It does not exist, and if it does, I would probably not buy it.
Coming to a store near you.
No, it's not from a cow. All right, moving forward. So Lando
Yeah,
Lakes butter is your preferred. I mean, do you use a stick, a whole stick? Is it drenched in
I
butter?
do.
Okay, so you use a
Yes.
whole stick of butter. I'm assuming you have a medium-sized pan, small pan to fit the two. I mean,
Yeah.
layers of cheese and ingredients. So medium-sized pan. Is it an aluminum pan, stainless steel pan? What do you use?
Okay. So basically, there are two parts to this. You have your syrup, which again there are different recipes and different quantities of water and ratios of water to sugar. Let's start with there. Let's start with that. For me, I use a 1-to-1. 1 cup water, 1 cup sugar. Some people like it the other way. They put more water, less sugar, إلى آخره, right?
This is
I
for the
just like it
syrup.
that way because for the syrup, because what I first mentioned is I don't like my Knafeh to be soggy. So you want to get that sweetness without it being drenched and soggy, right? At least for me.
Got
So
it.
1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of water. And another thing that I do that I don't see a lot of people doing, I haven't seen it online, but I think it does add to the flavor, is I add a teaspoon of rose water and a teaspoon of blossom water. I use both.
Interesting.
And
We're adding new ingredients.
most
So,
people, yeah, most people do not use both. It's one or the other, or some people don't. They'll just squirt a little bit of lemon in there. They won't put anything else. Honestly, in my opinion, it makes a huge difference to the flavor. So
and you're adding this to
those
the
are two things
syrup. So when
to
you
the syrup, correct?
when you're making the syrup, so let's say for this batch for our audience, you're using 2 cups of sugar, pure white sugar, right? Refined sugar, and then you're adding 2 cups of water, and you use a capful of rose water and a capful of blossom water, and you let that boil until it becomes a syrup.
Correct.
All right.
The rose water and blossom water I add towards the end.
Okay.
First you just want to get the sugar incorporated with the water, and then once it comes to a boil, I just add a capful of this and that, stir it a couple of times, and then just let it be. That's it. That's the extent of it. Sometimes if I have lemons, I'll put a little bit in there. If not, it's fine.
A whole
But
lemon, or are you squeezing a lemon into it?
no, just a little bit, just a little bit. No, like I don't know about a couple squirts of it, I guess. Not much. You're not putting. Some people will put like slices of lemon into the whole mixture and just let it. I don't know if that adds anything to it or not. I don't know. But for me,
Gotcha.
like the basics, the essentials for me when it comes to the syrup are obviously the sugar, the water, and then both rose water and blossom water.
That is the syrup, fully completed, ready to use.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. All right. So that's a syrup.
Um,
So walk us through the second half.
so when it comes to the pan, first you want to grease the pan. You want to make sure that you really grease it. Make sure that every single inch of it, every single millimeter of it has got butter on it, right?
Gotcha.
Last thing you want, and then you'll see why, because typically Knafeh is flipped, after it's cooked, right? You got the dough on the bottom and then the cheese on top, and it's on the burner, and then you rotate. Um, I do it the opposite. I layer first the butter on the pan, then I put the cheese on it, and then the dough on top, because I'm putting this in the oven. I've seen people do it the traditional way and try to, instead of do it on the stove top. I have an electric stove top, so it doesn't. If it was gas, it might work better, but for electric, it just didn't work. So this technique works better for me. So I butter the pan, then the 2 blocks of cheese will get the exact weight of it. You can edit it in at some point. And then on top of that, you want your phyllo dough that's, you melt a stick of butter and then you just mix it. You incorporate it with the dough. Most people would add food coloring, because the phyllo dough comes, I'm sure you've seen it before. It doesn't come that orange or reddish color, and that's all that is coloring, food coloring. You can add it, you cannot. It's really a personal choice. You have it, just a little bit of that just to add that to the butter first, and then, add just a little bit and then whisk it until it gets to the color of your liking, and then you add the butter to the phyllo dough, and then you just incorporate all of it, make sure that it's every single part of the dough, you butter it really well. And then you just put that on top. And that's basically it.
Okay, so just to summarize, because I think we skipped the steps on the skill part, because you mentioned the pan. Well, the pan is fully glazed, fully buttered. Normally, Chenafeh is flipped, and because you do not flip it, you drench the pan in butter, so I'm assuming it doesn't stick. You did mention that you take the cheese and you put the cheese. Is the cheese sliced on the bottom, or is it crumbled? I'm assuming it's crumbled on the bottom of the pan.
Crumbled, shredded. Akawi cheese, crumbled is probably better.
Gotcha. Is there a consistency or a size of the crumble, or should it just be shredded? Can I put it in a processor?
Yeah, you could, but I don't think it's necessary. I typically do it with my hands. I put on gloves and I'll just, I'll crumble it, as small as you can. Eventually it's all going to melt, right? So I find that, the larger the chunks, the harder it is, or the longer it takes for the cheese to melt or get to the consistency that you want. So you could put it in a food processor if you want, but, again, that's a personal choice.
So we have the cheese crumbled on the pan buttered, and then we move on to the phyllo dough mixing. Now you begin your journey with the phyllo dough with a stick of butter. Or is it more than one stick for the phyllo dough?
For me, one is sufficient. The phyllo dough that I typically get is already shredded. And I believe there is butter already in it. How much, I don't know. The other dough that comes in long strains that I think you'll find that are probably the more popular ones. If you want it more coarse, that's the one that you want to use. You can just chop it up with a knife, or put it in a food processor to process it to whatever consistency you want. That one, I would probably put a little bit more, probably put a stick and a half of butter in that one.
So for finer dough, you put more butter. For rougher, coarse dough, you stick to one stick of butter.
And I think more importantly than that is the type of dough that you get. You're going to find, again, a few different brands of different kinds. And if the dough that you're getting already has some butter, you know what? You can't go wrong, bro. The more butter you put on it, you're going to be good either way. So
Gotcha. Okay, so coarser dough, not so much butter. Very fine dough, add some more butter. Can't go wrong with butter. So we've added our butter, we've added our dough. Before we add our dough, actually, you mentioned we can put in the food coloring and whisk it, so that way the food coloring is ready based off of how the color you want the outcome to be. So pre-mix your coloring in, and now is it blue, is it purple, is it green? Are you making the St. Patty's Day Chenafeh? What color are we? Is the typical?
No, bro. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, bro.
Don't do that.
Stick. Yeah, no. You're gonna be pissing off a bunch of hot up, and you don't want that, bro.
Bruh.
So.
All right, we won't do that.
No, you can't miss it. It's the orange food coloring that's specifically for Knafeh. And how dark you want it, how light you want it, that's a personal preference. You could do without it too, because it really doesn't add to the flavor at all. It's just the color. And whisk it in with the butter to whatever color you like, and then you add that to the dough, and that's it, man. You got your greased pan, you got your cheese on top of that, and then you got your dough on top of that. After that, cover it with foil, throw it in the oven. The tricky part is, like everybody keeps asking me when I bring over a tray, like how long it's got to be in the oven, and that varies from oven to oven. I don't really look at a temperature. I look at the time. I just cover it, at least 400 degrees, and then I check it every 15, 20 minutes.
What are you checking for?
So exactly what I'm checking for is I want the Knafeh, the consistency of as close to Jello as possible. Like when you uncover it and you kind of shake it, you want it dancing. That's where you know that the cheese is pretty much melted through and through.
Okay,
You're
hold
gonna
on, hold
see
on.
maybe at yeah,
How do you check for level of dance? Like, are we talking
dance.
belly dance? Are
All
we
right.
talking
And,
dropping it like it's hot dance? Should it jump at you? What are we talking about, man?
no,
Dancing?
no, 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 no twerking.
No
Just
twerking? Okay, all
like
right.
no. So just think of Jello. All we've all seen commercials of Jello, how it jiggles.
Okay,
That
so
that's what you're
moving
looking
a
for.
plate. When
Get
I think
jiggy
of
with it.
Jello, I move a plate left and right, and it starts
There you
dancing
go.
on the plate. So,
Get jiggy with it,
so when
as
when the
how
Knafeh
my
starts
generation used to say.
dancing,
Uh huh.
and you zagret for the
Aywa,
Knafeh,
bro.
and it starts dancing for you, then is it ready or is it? What do you do after that?
So again, for me, the way I like it, because I don't like my knafa soggy. Once I get the cheese at that consistency, I take it out of the oven. I add the syrup onto it, gently pour it, and then throw it back in the oven so some of that moisture evaporates. What you're going to get, what you're going to get, that you're going to lose some of the moisture, but the sweetness is going to stay there, right? So for me, just growing up is, you go back overseas and when you order a knafa, they just drench it with cutlet, and it's just, I don't know. It's just for me, I don't. Um, this is my preferred. This is how I like my knafa, right? So, if you like your knafa just drenched, okay, you can skip this. You can just, take it out at that point once the cheese is melted, and then, add cutlet syrup to the slices or the entire pan if you like. But the way I like it is I add the syrup onto it. I throw it back in the oven. Um, you know,
And really let
if
it
you like
absorb
it,
it. Okay, maybe
yeah.
that's because I've had Knafeh, but when I have your Chenafeh, it tastes so much sweeter, and you don't really need the syrup. So whenever, and I think this is the extra step. You add it, and then you throw it back in the oven. Allow the cheese, the dough, to absorb the syrup. And how long do you put it in for? Do you cover it when you put it back in, or?
I don't know. I typically leave it uncovered, and it doesn't take long, 5, 7 minutes. It really, again, it depends on how you like your knafa. So this is something that if you're trying this, you just make it to the way you like it. Make it yours. Some people, they like their knafa more crispier. So then you could just put it on broil for a couple minutes, get that top really crunchy. Um, you know, um, but back to like my technique, that's I put it back in for 5 to 7 minutes, have some of that moisture evaporate a little bit, and then um, probably the most
Thank you,
important
baby.
thing is you got to serve it hot and right out of the oven. Don't waste any time. Have your plates ready, have everything ready. Just cut it up and then
Serve it hot, ready to go.
serve it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Okay,
Um,
because I've
and
had
then
cold
of course,
Knafeh. I've had people flip
no,
the
dude, no,
Knafeh, so it's supposed
yeah.
to be served warm. Period.
As hot as possible, not even warm.
As
You
hot
want
as
you want it
possible.
hot.
Right out the oven,
Yeah,
start slicing. Got it.
that's how you eat knafa, right out of the oven, bro. And another thing that if I have, I'll put add onto it because pistachios, just garnish the top of it, and that's it, man. That is the extent of it.
That is Abu Maryam's Knafeh, ladies and gentlemen, from start to finish. So everyone that has ever tried your Chenafeh, has loved it. So this is the method of your way of making Chenafeh. What other methods are there? Because I've seen some crazy stuff out there,
No,
and
yeah, crazy
and
stuff out there, dude.
like I've seen it where it's layered, where they have phyllo dough,
Hmm.
cheese, and phyllo dough. I've seen it to where, like you said, where they take it out, flip it, and then drench it in syrup until like
Hmm.
all of it's just syrup, and then they immediately slice. I've seen it to where at the top of it is all pistachio, fine pistachio dust at the top, kind of like a garnish. And I don't know
Hmm.
if you can even call that knafa at that point. So I've seen so many things out there, but this recipe that you just provided, Abu Maryam, is by far the one that has been at the top every single time. So shout out to you, my friend, for sharing it to the world. I hope somebody benefits from this amazing recipe. And yeah, man. Anything else? Any trials that, I mean, have you dropped it one before? Tried flipping one and then it just came out awful? What major atrocities do you recommend nobody ever does for Knafeh? Sorry,
yeah.
Chenafeh.
I had a friend over a couple years ago, and a friend from Chicago, and he was here. He was, I was going to make Knafeh. It was actually Ramadan, and this was probably 3 years ago now. And he's like, "No, bro, I got you." I'm like, "All right, so do your thing." And he's, doing it the traditional way, right? The pan, he's on the stovetop. He's trying to get the cheese melted, and, he's flipping and turning it and turning it and turning it. And then I don't know if he was trying to hand it to me, or I really don't remember, but all I remember is that thing went airborne and all over the kitchen. So you had, cheese, dough, butter, all over. Bro, I spent 4 or 5 hours cleaning that, and I was like, dude, but the smell, I wanted to eat it off the floor, but I'm like, dude, come on, no. It
smelled delicious, made my kitchen taste delicious.
It did.
But
dude, my kitchen was a disaster, boy.
So there's a hazard. There's a hazard to flipping, and maybe your method does eliminate the flipping. So shout out to the Abu Maryam method of Chenafeh, where you don't have to mess up your kitchen by flipping something that you are not good at and missing it. You won't have Chenafeh on the ceiling. You won't have to spend 5 hours cleaning it up, folks. So the Abu Maryam method of Knafeh is, I believe, the best. Share it with your friends, your colleagues. Give it a shot. If you're just now listening for the first time and you want to make Chenafeh, not Knafeh, Chenafeh, give this a shot, folks. Abu Maryam, this has been wonderful. Shout out to you and sharing your recipe and joining us today on the Khalud podcast. As always, you're always welcome for any other recipes that you'd like to share on the channel.
Habibi, thank you, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate all 3 people listening to this.